DreAllDay.com.
Now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves anyone out there, especially yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And we put all this together into one bundle, one package, one mindset, one method, one philosophy, one book, one show. This daily masterclass that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic, we're going to talk the qualities of the most successful podcasts. So you plan on being a podcaster, or you are already a podcaster. You're just trying to figure out, what do I need to be doing? What elements do I need to have in place to make my show as successful as possible? I'm going to explain to you what those are here today. Now, this is a question that I got actually from Quora, the crowdsourcing question and answer website, where anyone can post a question and just gather all the answers that you are able to muster from the people in the community who just want to come in and answer questions. I saw this question, I answered it, and I'm going to share it in this episode, what I shared there on Quora. Now, I talked about putting together and maintaining a podcast in several episodes of this show, Work on Your Game. So I'll refer you to those episodes here. The most direct one where I talked about this exact topic was episode 950, what makes for a quality podcast. So if you haven't heard that, again, you can just go to DreAllDay.com / and then just put the number of the episode and then put the dash right after it. That dash is the key that is right next to the 0 on your keyboard. So hit the dash, not the underscore, but the dash, and that'll give you each one of those episodes. Again, that's 950. I talked on episode number 725, how to start and maintain a podcast. In episode 365, what I learned in a year of podcasting. I think that would be helpful for some of you. Masterclass number 1581, how to maintain podcast listenership. Number 1582, how to prepare for a podcast appearance. Masterclass number, there's one more, 997. The topic is why you should start a podcast. So again, several episodes where you can go and hear me talk about podcasting. But here today, I'm going to talk about the qualities of the most successful podcasts, what they all have in common. Don't have to have the same format. Don't have to have the same type of guests. Don't have to have the same themes or topics. But there are certain things that they all have in common. That's what we're going to talk about here today. Now, I believe I qualify to speak on this topic because I have been podcasting since 2016. In the actual podcast platform. I'm not talking about having a YouTube channel and calling it a podcast. I'm talking about in the actual podcast platform. I've been doing this since 2016. If we're talking YouTube, I've been doing this since 2005. I publish more content online than any person alive. I put out a new episode of this show every single day since the inception of the show. As far as booking business off this show, I've done plenty of that. There are plenty of you who never heard of me until you came across this show. This show has been listened to, downloaded, streamed, or whatever you want to call it, over 3 million times over the last 4+ years. So however you want to quantify successful, I think I qualify. So this could be in terms of, because the topic here today is qualities of the most successful podcast. So whatever you call success, if you mean by that, you mean engagement, downloads, how many reviews you get, how much money you make from it, the depth of your audience, buy-in, whatever it is that you consider to be successful, every show that has that success, whatever measure, they have certain things in common. So here's my answer today. The qualities of the most successful podcast. Point number 1, consistency. Great shows, any kind of show. It doesn't even have to be a podcast. Any kind of content or material. It doesn't have to be content. It could be something that's paid, whatever it is. Anything that's going to be great, it is consistent in certain things. The theme, the subject matter, the format, and the style. People need to know what they're going to get. That's what makes them rely on it. That's what makes them expect it. That's what makes them come to depend on it and look forward to it, to anticipate it, and to tell their friends about it, because they can tell their friends this is what you're going to get, and they can get their friends excited, and then their friends will come in, and the word of mouth, and then it spreads organically. You must be consistent. Even the breaks in these elements are consistent. So for example, if a show is usually an hour long, they always do hour-long interviews. Sometimes they'll do 15-minute only rants just by the host, just talking for 15 minutes about whatever happens to be on the host's mind. Even that is consistent. All right, every third episode they're going to do that, or once a week they'll do it. Maybe they have to try it out at first to see how it goes, and people let them know, I like it, I don't like it, and then they can be consistent in doing that. But whatever you're going to do, if you want to be known by an audience, you want people to buy into what you're doing, They have to have some idea of what they're going to get. Even if them getting it inconsistently is part of the consistency, they have to know what they're going to get. We're going to get, when this episode comes out, we know it's going to be about humor. We know it's going to be an interview with an entrepreneur. We know it's going to be the host just going on a rant and saying whatever happens to be on their mind, whatever's going on at that moment. Whatever it is, you got to be consistent with it. You want people to buy into you and rely on you and expect things from you and depend on you. You must be consistent in your delivery. If people don't know what they're going to get, they can't buy in and they can't stick around. So people need to know what they're getting. Theme, subject matter, format, and style. Point number 2. Topic here today, the qualities of the most successful podcast. Number 2, host personality. So what I mean here when I say this is the quality of the most successful podcast is that the host has some personality. All right. Some of you want to be on the show or you want to have a show and you haven't really tapped into your personalities. Not that you don't have one. Some people don't have one. But you just haven't tapped into yours. When you tap into it, that's when people are going to start buying into you. Because listen, people don't buy into information, ladies and gentlemen. Information is easy to get, and any information you can share, somebody else can share it. They might change the wording around a little bit, but somebody else can share the same information you're sharing. Not because they stole it from you, but because they got access to the same information you got access to. It's your personality. It's the personality with which you transfer that information, with which you communicate it. That's what people buy into. And masterclass number 878. The topic is key for personal branding, personality. And I got personality in all capital letters. So if you want to build your brand, you want to build a show around you, whether you're the host who interviews people, whether you're a host who just goes off and does it yourself, like I'm doing here on this show, you got to have some personality that gets people to buy into you. People buy into the attractive character. And the attractive character doesn't have to be some person with a whole lot of histrionics or a whole lot of drawing attention to themselves. You could be the exact opposite of that. You could be a very reticent, very calm, relaxed type of energy, or very, you just eccentric type of energy. It could be whatever you want it to be. It just needs to be consistent, and it needs to be some type of personality that people can buy into so that they say, all right, I see where this person is coming from. I see how they're approaching this. I can buy into this. I can roll with this. So whatever that personality is, be it. Many podcasts, at least the ones that I listen to, they center around the personal brand of the host. Here's the problem though. Too many hosts out there have the personality of a damn cardboard box, so the show doesn't do very well. So whatever your personality is, whatever your persona is, however you're going to put yourself out there, be consistent with it. Make sure that people know exactly what they're going to get, and make sure you're being the true version of yourself, because you have to remember to be somebody that you're actually not. That's probably not going to help. That's not going to do too much for you, at least not in a positive way. So make sure your personal brand, whatever it is attached to some type of personality that people can say, all right, I like this. I like how this person is coming. I can buy into this. I would even tell my friends about it. If you don't have a personality, and I suggest you listen to masterclass number 878 and you get you one. Because if you don't have a personality, your show will be boring. It will be unmemorable. It will be forgettable. And it'll even bore you. You'll get bored doing your own show simply because you're not excited about it. So if you're not excited about your content, you're not excited to do the show, you're not excited about what you talk about or who you bring onto the show or what you're giving to your audience or making sure that your audience is getting something, if you're not excited, that will bleed through the microphone. That will bleed through the airwaves when you're sharing whatever you're sharing, and people are not going to buy into it. You're not going to buy into it, and your show will not last. So if you go into the podcast app or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts, you'll see a whole lot of, or YouTube or blogs, or actually anywhere where people can publish content for free. You'll see a whole lot of platforms where people started off with energy. They started off believing in what they were doing. They started off hot and consistent, but what happened is they didn't stick around. One reason people don't stick around is they just don't have the discipline. They don't have the mental toughness. Things aren't going as great as they thought they would, so they just give up. Another reason people give up is because they were never excited about it in the first place. So when push comes to shove and things get tough, they just pretty much give up because there was nothing interesting about what they were doing in the first place. And the reason why there's nothing interesting about what a person is doing is because there's nothing interesting about the person themselves, okay? Anytime you find yourself bored with what you're doing, there's something boring about you. And if you go find something else to do, then you'll become more excited, you'll become more exciting, and you'll be more interested in what you're doing, and other people will be more interested in what you're doing. This is just the way that it works. They all work together. Point number 3, the topic here today is the qualities of the most successful podcast. I got 5 I'm going to give you here. We're on number 3, quality of topics / questions being asked. The quality of the topics and the questions being discussed. A key element that separates great shows from also ran shows is the quality. I mean, I think that's simple enough, right? What are we talking about here? Who are we talking to, and what kind of questions are we asking the people that we're talking to? Are you giving your listeners anything that they either did not expect or could not get anywhere else? Allow me to repeat the question. Are you giving your listener anything that they either did not expect or could not get anywhere else? And if you can't think of the answer to this question, you need to really rethink your content, really rethink your approach, rethink the way you're presenting yourself. What are you offering that nobody else can offer? What are you saying that nobody else can say or that no one else is saying in your way? What are you giving the listener that if you went away, they would never be able to replicate? Are you challenging the thinking of the people who listen to your show? Are your questions challenging their thinking? Are you asking questions that your listeners would never think to ask? Are you bringing things out of your guests that hasn't been brought out of them on all the other shows that they've been on before they came on your show? Are you saying anything to your audience that had you not said it, the idea or the thought would never have occurred to them? Can you see some situation that everyone knows about differently than how most people think about it? If you can't answer yes to any of these questions, why the hell are you publishing? Let me tell you the questions one more time. And there can be more, but this is a baseline that you can start with. Are you giving your listener anything they did not expect? Are you presenting anything or representing something that your listener cannot get anywhere else? Nobody else could do what you do, in other words. Are you challenging the thinking of the people who are listening to your material? Are you seeing some common situation, or are you leading your listeners, rather, to see some common situation that they already know about and maybe have already formed an opinion about? Are you leading them to see it differently than how they saw it before they came across you? What are you giving to your audience that they cannot get anywhere else, that they would not have if it wasn't for you presenting it? If you cannot answer these questions, if you can't answer any of these questions, my question to you is, why the hell are you in the game? You are in the way. You are offering nothing. You are not improving on the silence. You are just another carbon copy. Get the hell out the way. You're not helping the game. Why are you publishing if you're not offering anything to help people get better? Why are you publishing if you're not saying something that nobody else has said? What are you bringing to the game that is not there without you? If you disappeared, what would be missing from the game that nobody else is going to be able to do, even if they knew the UF? You need to think on that as we move on to point number 4. Today's topic is the qualities of the most successful podcast. Uniqueness of the subject matter. Understand something. Let me tell you one thing the world does not need. It doesn't need another show on entrepreneurship or personal development. Why? Because we got enough of those already. So if you are into entrepreneurship or personal development, and there are plenty of other topics, I'm just bringing up those two because those are two that I see a lot. Understand, all is not lost if you're into entrepreneurship or personal development. It doesn't mean you can't make a show. Thing is, you need a unique angle on the subject that is not already out there. I wasn't the first person ever to talk about personal development or personal growth topics. There are plenty of people who have talked about it, plenty of people who are, and there are plenty more who will in the future. I'm not the first. I know I'm not the first. But I'm talking about it in such a way, from such a unique angle, that it wasn't already out there before I did it. So now I own that space. So if you're going to speak about any subject that is already saturated in the market already has plenty of people addressing that topic, doesn't mean you can't get in the game too. It means you need to come up with some kind of angle that makes you unique, that makes people say, damn, I've heard of this subject before. I hear people talking about it all the time. But the way Fill in the Blank talks about it is completely different. That's why I subscribe to this show. That's why I buy their stuff. That's why I read their books. That's why I'm all in on what they have going on. What is the uniqueness of your subject matter? If you can't answer, then you don't have any uniqueness. But understand, figuring out that unique angle that is not already out there, figuring out what you're going to say and how you're going to say it that hasn't already been said before, this is mental work, ladies and gentlemen. This is not easy. This is something you got to really put some time into figuring out. This is something that you may have to go back and forth with yourself or with whoever happens to be on your team many times before you really find that you really come to the real conclusion that you want to get to. This is mental work. If you want to win, you got to do this work. Is your subject matter unique? Are you talking about something that nobody's talked about? Are you taking something that everybody's talking about, but talking about it in a way that people are like, that's interesting. I never thought about it that way. Let me see what they have to say. And then can you keep them in when you do that? If you're not doing that, you might not want to have a podcast. Number 5, today's topic are the qualities of the most successful podcasts out there. Point number 5, the energy of the host. When I say the energy of the host, I do not mean that the host is yelling and jumping around into the mic or screaming at the camera. That's not what I mean when I say the energy of the host. I mean the amount of passion and caring and commitment and giving a damn that you can feel from the host when they're talking about what they're talking about. You don't even have to see them. You can just hear them. And you can tell in their voice that they really care about the subject. You really have something to say on this topic. They want to really make sure they get their point across. You can tell that they are excited about what they're talking about, which energy, that transfer of energy, you will be excited about what they're talking about simply because you can feel their energy. All right? When another person's energy is stronger than yours, their energy will overpower the situation and will control the situation. So if you're excited about your topic, other people will be excited about your topic. There are too many shows out there these days where they feel, to me, and y'all can tell me, many shows feel like they exist only because the host felt as if they had to have a podcast. Like, all right, everybody has a podcast, maybe I should start a podcast. All right, everybody's doing YouTube, maybe I should do a YouTube channel. People told me to blog, maybe I should start blogging. Listen, if your content is boring and there's not really any substance to it, there's no life in it, there's no energy behind it, it can't get me excited because it's not getting you excited, listen, you probably shouldn't be doing it anyway. You shouldn't even be doing it in the first place. If you're not a great audio speaker, maybe you should do video. You like to see yourself. You don't like looking at yourself or hearing your voice, maybe you should be a writer. And if you don't like writing, then maybe you're going to need to revisit one of the others. But understand, the energy that you have when you are discussing your area of expertise or your topic or whatever you want to talk about, even if you're the host of the show, just interviewing people, people can tell when you care and when you don't. And when you don't care, I guarantee you nobody else is going to care. Too many shows out there feel like, again, the host is doing it just because they feel like they have to. Maybe some social media agency told them that they had to. Maybe they just looked around and saw the wave and said, all right, I'm going to start a podcast as everybody else is starting a podcast. Understand, if you don't have the energy behind that want, your show is going to be trash. Most shows out there suck. Most shows will not last. Most podcasts that are out there right now will not be around a year from now. This is real conversation here. Most shows that are out there right now will not be around a year simply because the host doesn't care enough about the topic. There's nothing unique about it. There's no interesting angle. They're not going to stick around. They're just going to stop publishing. It's not like the publishing platforms say, hey, you're not allowed to do podcasts anymore. You can put out as much as you want. Most shows die, not because they were stripped of their rights to publish, but because they were not interested in the topic enough on their own to get other people interested. That's just the way that it works. And this is why most shows suck. And this is why most hosts suck. But I'm trying to help y'all out. I've given you the resources to fix this. Let's recap today's class, which is the qualities of the most successful podcasts out there. Point number 1, consistency. Great shows are consistent in theme, subject matter, format, and style. Even when they're inconsistent, they're consistent about that. Number 2, personality of the host. Many podcasts center around the personal brand of the person who's the host. The problem is with that is a good thing, but it can also be a problem. The problem is many hosts have the personality of a damn cardboard box. If they're boring, unmemorable, and forgettable, their shows will not last. Number 3, the quality of the topics / questions being asked. The key element that separates the great shows from the also-rans is the quality of the material. All right, you do have to actually be good. Are you giving a listener anything that they didn't expect? Are you giving them anything they couldn't get anywhere else? Are you challenging people's thinking? Are you seeing some common situation different than how most people see it? If you can't answer yes to any of these questions, why the hell are you publishing? You are in the way. Number 4, uniqueness of the subject matter. The world does not need another show about entrepreneurship, say, or personal development, or playing basketball. So if you're into these topics, all is not lost. You just need a unique angle on the subject that is not already out there. This is mental work that you must do. Get to doing it. And number 5, the energy of your host. By this, I do not mean that the host needs to yell into the mic and be jumping up and down in front of the camera. I mean the amount of passion and caring and commitment and give a damn the host has that you can feel through the airwaves when they're talking about what they're talking about. There are too many shows these days who exist only because the host, for whatever reason, felt that they had to have a podcast because that's what everybody else is doing. That is the exact wrong reason to do it. Most shows suck because of that, and most of them won't last because of that. But if you want to be one of the most successful podcasts, and maybe you could share your tips with an audience of people who are thinking about starting a podcast sometime in the future, then follow these points that I just gave you. Work on your game. Dre all day.